Am I the asshole for not stopping my daughter, letting her humiliate her uncle? So I, 31 female, and my hubby, 34 male, and our kids, have spent a week with my in-laws at their place. Sister-in-law's family lives close by, so we spend time with them as well. In-laws are cool, and we get along great. My sister-in-law's hubby, 40 male, is an ass though. He's loud, he takes up a lot of space, and his idea of fun is to embarrass and shame others, especially if they don't act like they should for their gender. No one gets away, not even his wife or kids. His boys are not allowed to wear pink or do any girly crap. His daughter must act like a lady, and was refused to pursue the education that she wanted, which was car mechanic. We don't have a traditional marriage. I do maintenance on our cars when needed, and the same with our garden and house. I fix whatever needs fixed in and out of the house, etc., etc. Basically, everything men would be expected to do a few years back. Hubby does a lot of the daily house chores. My brother-in-law often makes jabs at me for not being feminine enough, and hubby for not being manly enough. A housewife shouldn't be covered in dirt and oil like that. A dress would look pretty on that body of yours instead of whatever it is you're wearing. Maybe your husband should step up for once so you don't break a nail. And similar comments. It obviously pisses me off. I've promised hubby not to confront him in public, so I haven't. I've talked to him in private, but he just brushes me off, calling it some good old banter between the in-laws. Sister-in-law says nothing ever. Our oldest kid have not promised anyone not to confront him in public though. A few evenings ago we were sitting in their living room after dinner, chatting and having a good time. I got up to get myself a beer, and hubby asked for a cider. My brother-in-law immediately drew his breath, and I knew it was coming. When you didn't think the roles could be more reversed. Our daughter, female 13, looked up from the board game she was playing with her cousins, stared at him, and asked, "What do you mean reversed roles?" She looked at me, but I didn't say or signal for her to drop it in any way. The rest went along the lines of, "Oh, it's just something we adults say as a joke." My daughter looks around at everyone else and says, "Huh, I thought jokes were supposed to make people laugh. No one's laughing." Well, some people just don't get the joke. Or maybe they just don't find it to be funny. Not everyone gets off on sexist comments and jokes. Oh, we're using big words now. He actually started to laugh, albeit nervously. Do you need me to explain sexism to you? The boys in my class also laugh and goof around when subjects they're not mature enough to comprehend come up. At this point, my brother-in-law huffed, got up and left the room, clearly pissed off. Things were tense for a couple of minutes, then we were back to having a good time. Hubby later that evening got a text from brother-in-law saying that he should get his kids and wife under control and teach the kids to respect their elders. Yeah, F that. Crap went down the following days, and the family is split 50-50. So am I the asshole for not telling her to keep quiet? Edit/info, yes, we ignore his comments. When he doesn't get a reaction or the attention he wants, he stops, and the remainder of the gatherings are awesome. I've known brother-in-law for 16 years. Hubby has known him for 25. Everyone has at one point tried calling him out, but it doesn't work. Ignoring is more efficient, although he just has to make a comment before he realizes no one's listening. We've talked to our kids about this as well, that his behavior obviously isn't okay, but if no one gives feedback, he'll drop it. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I didn't stop my daughter from speaking up, which has caused other family members to mumble about my brother-in-law's behavior. Sister-in-law and kids is stressed because now there's rumors going around that they're being suppressed and abused. I'm not sure if it could have been handled differently without it affecting sister-in-law and cousins. Now in the comments, Macaroni Rascal 42 says, "Your child is my hero. However, she should not have been the one to do that. All of you should have shut that crap down long ago, gone low contact or no contact. Why does your husband not want you to confront him in public? It's shameful your child has to be the one to call him out. That's not her responsibility. You and your husband need to have a serious talk about this. You're the asshole." And OP replies, I explained the no confrontation in another comment. In the 16 years I've known brother-in-law, calling him out hasn't made a difference. We're already low contact, not because of his behavior, but due to distance. Going completely no contact is an absolute last resort. Kids usually are by themselves, not really hanging out with us adults. Cousins have not taken after their dad. Unfortunately, no confrontation isn't okay. Not when there are children involved. They need to see and hear their parents say, hell no, you don't get to talk like that to me. You can apologize or you can leave. Exactly. Children need to see and hear that verbal communication. Sometimes it can be hard for children to pick up on small hints and subtle communication. Yeah, this is how racism and homophobia have continued to fester. Silence in so many cases is mistaken for being complicit. Speak up if you don't agree. Otherwise, nobody will know the difference. Everyone sucks here. Not the asshole for letting her speak her mind, but you're the asshole for subjecting her to that sexist and cruel environment. Seriously, why would you want her to be taught that sexism is okay and should be ignored? Everyone sucks here except your daughter for enabling the sexist asshole to keep the peace. And I call BS to you calling him out doesn't work. Your 13-year-old daughter handled him swiftly and efficiently. You making a promise not to call him out is sexist in its own right and needs to be addressed in your own marriage. Silencing someone who is attacking and putting you down for 16 plus years? Are you frackin' kidding me? I'm sorry, internet stranger. You need to require more of yourself and your partner in life. Call brother-in-law out every time. The simplest, I don't get it, explain it to me. So you think women are incapable? Etc., etc. Or, brother-in-law, I foolishly agreed to remain silent about your BS attitude, thinking you'd eventually shut the hell up. But you haven't. My daughter's last interaction with you shows me how toxic this dynamic has been, and if you can't do better, then you can't be with us. Everyone but your daughter is an asshole here, everyone sucks here. And back to the post, OP puts in a final edit. Alright, hubby and I have had a serious long talk after showing him the comments on the post. We see that we're the assholes for subjecting our kids to brother-in-law. Which is not what this Am I the Asshole was about, but Reddit speaketh the truth once again, even though they know this behavior is not okay. We honestly thought talking to them about it, explaining our reasoning behind ignoring and not bother to confront, etc. was enough. We realize we were in the wrong, and we still talk to our kids about it and how we should've, and will in the future, handle it. It will most likely be 6 to 9 months until we see sister-in-law and the in-laws again. We've already now decided that whenever he makes his comments, we'll just up and leave. No explanation, just take the kids with us and whoosh. If that doesn't work after a repetition or two, we will inform the in-laws that we will not attend gatherings, etc. where he will be present. Going no contact is, as I already said, a last resort. The kids go along amazingly, theirs and ours, and I love spending time with sister-in-law as we have a lot in common. I would very much hate to keep the kids from seeing each other, so hubby and I hope that our plan will work. It will take some time to find out since we don't see each other often, and I'm fairly quick to say others should go no contact when there's toxic family involved, and it's obviously easier said than done. Thanks everyone for taking the time to reply, especially those with constructive feedback in the comments. Our next post is by user Hello8391, titled, Am I the asshole for getting mad when my husband and his friend didn't eat dinner the way I prepared it? For weeks now, I've been dying to make this homemade chicken Alfredo pasta recipe. I finally got together all the ingredients and chose to splurge on the expensive Parmesan cheese. I only make this every once in a while because it's not particularly healthy, but I just love it with a nice glass of wine. I'd been saying to my husband how pumped I was to make it and enjoy dinner and wine together. And as I was making dinner, my husband comes into the kitchen and says his buddy is going to be driving by in the next 15 minutes and wanted to know if he could stop by to see my husband for a bit. I had plenty of food to spare, and I was excited to share this dish because I put a lot of time and effort into making it. I'm kind of new to cooking, and it's one thing I've really mastered. I told my husband that his friend was welcome to join us for dinner. So they sit at the table, and I make us all plates. His friend had bought a six-pack, so instead of wine, they drank beer. I thought that it was odd to have beer with Alfredo, but whatever. I started digging into my meal, but they're caught up in chatting. After they finish their beers, my husband grabs 2 more from the fridge and brings back with him a bottle of hot sauce. Without even trying a single bite, he sprays hot sauce all over his entire plate. My friend sees what he's doing and is like, "Hell yeah, man, pass the hot sauce over here." And then he covers his pasta in it. The only thing I said was that they might get a stomachache from all that cheese, hot sauce, cream, and butter in their stomachs. The way I was raised, someone cooking for you is a gift. Even if you get a crappy gift, you should at least show gratitude. I was also taught that to be polite, you always try a bit of the food before changing or modifying it. It hurt my feelings and I thought it showed poor manners on my husband's part. Later, I told my husband how I felt and he said that I was making a big deal of nothing. He said he should be free to eat how he likes. For the record, he did get a terrible tummy ache. So tell me, am I the arsehole? Now in the comments, TopAd2676 says, "First, did I just detect a bit of condescension when you mentioned they cracked a bottle of beer open instead of wine? Sounds to me like you're a bit of a food snob. And no, you don't get to tell people, even husbands, what they can and cannot put on the food they're eating, no matter who made it. For me, you're the arsehole." I would go with everyone sucks here instead. Husband should have at least tried the food first instead of immediately dumping hot sauce on it. Well, it does say that she's made this before, even if it's rare, so he does already know what it tastes like. I find fettuccine Alfredo can be very, very different, even if you make it the same way. Plus, she says she splurged on the expensive parmesan, so it sounds like it actually was different than normal. The expensive parmesan isn't going to make a huge difference where it would be a different meal. It really can't be that different each time. It's a fairly straightforward and simple recipe. Actually, yeah, more expensive cheese does make a difference. Bags of pre-shredded cheese are coated in an anti-clumping agent, doesn't melt the same, and doesn't have as distinctive a flavor. The parm that comes in the shake container isn't even 100% cheese. Not even remotely the same as a more costly, freshly grated block. Not the arsehole OP, he should have at least tried it before dousing it in hot sauce, even if only because he knew it was an important meal to you. I will say, beer goes with anything though. Bureaucrat Drift says, "No arseholes here." It's polite to try new foods before modifying them on one hand, but on the other, if you're a spice fiend, you already know that cream sauces need all the help they can get. Look, she's cooked it before. He likely had a pretty good idea how it tasted without the hot sauce. I was leaning not the arsehole, but yeah, if the husband has already eaten this a few times, it's no arseholes here because he knows what the food is like and how he enjoys it. And the friend just going along because the husband already tried it, plus everybody knows that cooking is particularly prone to changes by people who are meant to enjoy it. How the hell is the husband the arsehole for liking hot sauce? Look, I never said he was. It's polite to try a bite before altering food, but he knew what it tasted like already, so he's certainly not. The not the arsehole would have said the husband is the arsehole. You're the arsehole. Let people eat their food how they like. If you cannot stomach modifications, stop cooking for them. And Furious Pie 314 says, "No arseholes here." You state that's how you were raised, but not how your husband was raised. If he didn't grow up with the same values about cooking, then expecting him to share them without speaking to him isn't very fair. When things cool down, explain it to him like you did to us. Help him understand, but also be open to seeing things the way he does too. Am I the arsehole for asking my wife to quit her job after her boss tried to kiss her? So I'm 24 and my wife is 25. She's my high school sweetheart. We've been together since we were 18 and went through uni together. We married last year, and overall everything is going really well. This year she started a job in a fashion store. It's her first job ever, and she really enjoys it there. So she frequently goes to after-work dinners and drinks with her co-workers, most of which are male. I'm fine with that, of course, as I fully trust her and know she would never want to cheat on me. Also, she always tells me everything and doesn't leave out details. I know all of her co-workers, including her boss, and I've met them a few times before. So the other day, she tells me that after one of those evenings out with her co-workers, she was walking with her boss back to the store to pick something up at around 4 a.m, and he tried to kiss her. She of course pulled away right away, and I believe her, and she went home to tell me straight away. Of course, I am freaking out. I don't like this one bit. Her boss knows me, and he knows we are married. So the next morning I gathered my thoughts and told her straight up that I would like her to quit her job. I don't feel comfortable with her working there anymore. She says I'm overreacting. She would never do anything with him, and she loves her job and enjoys getting paid, of course. She's not even considering looking for something else. She really wants to stay there, but I feel super uncomfortable. She says she wouldn't go for drinks alone with her boss anymore, but honestly, that's not enough for me. Am I the asshole for asking her to quit her job? Now in the comments, Accordland says, "You're the asshole. Her boss should be punished, not her. But it isn't normal for people to be out with their boss until 4 a.m. either. This sounds off." I agree, this is off, and it's weird that she isn't interested in leaving her job after this. I don't think her not wanting to leave her job is weird. If it were my wife, I'd be fighting for her boss to leave his job, and I believe my wife would want the same thing. But going out until 4 a.m. alone, a surprise kiss with no reasoning behind it? Something is off. Now, maybe it's just that they work a later shift and don't get off work until 3 a.m., but it's something. Look, I don't think a surprise kiss is very out of the blue. Creeps have to start somewhere. I'll clarify. In no way am I victim blaming anyone. My comment meant that creeps can be creeps regardless of any noted behavior in the past. They can victimize women at any point at all, be it 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. As someone who has had a longtime friend of my dad's who has known me since I was a literal child, up and try to make out with me out of nowhere when I was in my mid-20s, let me assure you that yes, sometimes it comes out of frickin' nowhere from someone you never thought would be a threat. Mountain Goat 05 says, "You're the asshole. You don't get to dictate whether or not she quits her job. You can tell her you're worried about her safety or encourage her to report her boss to HR or explore other job options, but you don't get to tell her that you want her to quit." Ideally, you're correct, but I note that not every job has HR. If this is a small one-boss business, she may not have a practical recourse. And Webby Vanderquack says, "You're the asshole. I mean, the boss sucks, but in the conflict between you and your wife, you're the asshole. This is 100% her call. If she doesn't feel comfortable, she can make the choice to leave, but it sounds like she's handling the situation just fine. Quote, she said she wouldn't go for drinks alone with her boss anymore, but honestly that's not enough for me. It sounds like you're afraid your wife will cheat on you. That's your issue to fix, not hers. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Who goes for drinks with their boss alone until 4 a.m. in the morning? 25-year-olds? Especially when it's an evening out with her co-workers and not just the boss. And Rest in Peace later says, "You're the asshole. There was a situation, she handled it correctly, and you're trying to punish her for it. This is how you make sure she doesn't tell you in the future by being this controlling and unreasonable. She's out partying and drinking all the time with friends and staying out all night. Would you call a woman controlling and unreasonable if she started to get a little insecure at her husband doing that, going out drinking with his friends that he kept separate from her, and not coming home until the morning? It seems like if OP was a woman, there would be more, "I don't think he values you" comments. Here though, OP is a guy, so the consensus seems to be don't be so insecure, let your wife stay out drinking all night if she wants to. Well said. It's mind-boggling that people are calling him insecure and paranoid when apparently staying out till 4 in the morning is a regular occurrence for her. And Leather Anybody 5389 says, "Not the asshole. You want to be in protective mode, but you need to be in supportive mode. Your wife shared what happened, and that goes to show she trusts you to have her back and to be a firm support to her. You say you trust her, so trust her to make the right decision and continue to let you know what's happening. Instead of quitting, you can both sit and develop a specific plan of action if her boss tries again or does something else. And OP replies, "Thanks, man. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying. I'm really all over the place at the moment." And our next post is by user Key Illustrator 2899, titled, "Am I the asshole for admitting to my half-sibling that I don't love them enough?" So I, 33 female, have 3 older siblings, 37 male, 35 female, and 35 male, and a half-sister Laura, 24 female. My dad cheated on my mum, and that's how Laura came to be. My mom was understandably hurt when she found out about the cheating, and was willing to forgive my dad and stay married until she found out about Laura. After a DNA test proved paternity, my mum filed for divorce, and we were all upset about the destruction of our family. In spite of everything, our mum still encouraged us to have a relationship with our dad, but we resented him and hated whenever he tried to get us to interact with Laura. Our parents didn't tell us, but my oldest brother knew that if Laura didn't exist, our family unit would have stood a chance. After each of us turned 14, we told our mum that we didn't want to spend the night at our dad's place and that we would not be with him if he ever brought Laura around. Dad had custody of Laura, so it was rare, and whenever he or his side of the family complained, we promptly reminded everyone that we were all here because of his actions and we had no obligation to Laura. We were all like this for so long, and I guess over the years, I started to soften up because when Laura reached out, I responded after a few days, and we slowly started a relationship. She reached out to our others as well, but they all politely refused, stating that while they're not angry at her anymore and wish her no ill will, they had no interest. They even said that they would not hold it against me if I wanted to have a relationship with Laura and be cordial at any events I invited her to, and true to their word, they were very civil when I invited Laura to my wedding. Laura is now engaged and wants me to attend, and I was willing until I learned about her mother being present. I still despise this woman and politely refused the invitation, but Laura said that she was willing to look into changing dates that would suit me best if I gave her enough of a heads up. I knew that no matter what I said, Laura really wanted me there, and would keep trying, so I just told her the truth. I said I still hated her mum and didn't want to see her, so I just wasn't going. Laura was understandably upset, and my dad berated me for trying to make her choose between me and her own mother. I countered that I was never giving an ultimatum and simply just removing myself because of course the mother of the bride has higher importance. My dad said that if I ever loved Laura, I would attend regardless of who else was there. I said that while I was able to develop some type of love of Laura, I don't love her enough to tolerate her mother. Members of my paternal side are calling me an asshole, but I feel I was just being honest. Am I the asshole? And edit to add because I keep seeing this, I just wanted to clarify. 1. Technically we, my mum and siblings, don't know if Laura's mum knew, but she never denied knowing. And I think if someone in her position was truly innocent, she'd be quick to voice it. Although after all this time, if she finally did come out and say it, I wouldn't believe her without proof. 2. Yes, my siblings and I were hurt, angry, and bitter children at the time. We were upset with Laura because if she didn't exist, our family would have still been together. We've grown up now and have stopped being angry, I mentioned that up above, but that doesn't equate to wanting a relationship. I'm willing to have one while my other siblings aren't because they don't feel close to her, nor do they want to become close, and that's their choice. 3. My brother was told that our mum would have stayed married to our dad if Laura didn't exist by our cousins, who were told by their mum, our maternal aunt, who my mum confessed to during the divorce. 4. Over the years, I've spoken to my mum in length about Laura, and while she bears no grudge against her, but never did, she wasn't ever going to force a relationship. She even encouraged it in the beginning, but just didn't push. 5. I don't know where people are getting that I've completely forgiven my dad, but I don't. However, if I did, that would be because he's my dad. Laura's mum is nothing to me, and I gain nothing from forgiving her. And 6. I never told Laura that I didn't love her enough to tolerate her mum at the wedding. I told my dad that if he tells her, that's on him. I would never say something like that to her face because no matter how truthful, it's still hurtful. Maybe one day I can love her enough to tolerate her mum at something, but it won't be in time for the wedding. I have nothing much else to add. That's a lot, and I feel like you've backed yourself up enough that I'm on your side for this one, OP. It really comes down to personal preference. Yes, Laura is going to be upset that you don't want to be at that wedding, but if this is a deal breaker, it shouldn't be pushed. You shouldn't be expected to suck it up if you don't want to. I mean, it's okay to have your distance from the woman who split your family apart. I don't blame you for being hurt, and I support your decision here. Not the arsehole. Now in the comments, Aphrodora says, not the arsehole, but poor Laura. I do encourage you to reconsider the wedding because chances are you'll not have to interact with her mum. Your dad and the affair partner were assholes, but it has been 24 years. I think it's unfair of you all to believe that if not for Laura's existence, the circumstances of which she has no say in, that your parents would have stayed together. I get believing that as kids, but now as an adult, has it never occurred to any of you that adultery is rarely an isolated problem? If your parents had tried to work it out again, there's no guarantees it would have stuck. Laura has just been the scapegoat. It sounds like the OP and their siblings don't think that it was guaranteed that their parents would stay together, only that there was a chance. Laura was the deal breaker for the OP's mother. Even if the odds of the OP's parents staying together after his affair, if that affair had not resulted in a child, was slim, I can understand why the OP and their siblings would regret and resent the loss of that chance. It's unfortunate that the OP's older brother became aware that the existence of a child of their father's affair was the reason their mother chose to divorce him, when she would otherwise have forgiven him and given him another chance. And Ninja Dragon 94 says, everyone sucks here. I feel like everyone is really rude here because Laura didn't ask for any of this. So far what I'm seeing is Laura is the only decent person here. The only person that everyone should be angry at is the father. They didn't ask for any of it either. Why is it the offspring of the affair always gets off scot-free, but the ones who were directly affected, suffered, was filled with abandonment, hate, anger, and resentment, always get vilified? OP is within their right to not want to see the AP. The affair partner did something wrong too. Having an affair. Because they didn't do anything wrong? Am I missing something here? Yeah, but neither did the kids. You were missing empathy on another set of innocent kids who were also directly hurt during this. Empathy enough to understand they felt sad about a divorce, although emotionally traumatized is going at it a bit far. Plenty of kids go through tough divorces. Empathy enough that in their 30s they still feel this way? That they treated their half-sister who did nothing wrong like she was the cause of the divorce? No. Empathy goes away when you start hating on a literal baby for being born. They don't even hate their dad by all accounts. He gets a pass from them. Just the baby didn't. While it might be understandable for the kids, it is something I'd expect them to grow out of and/or for a family to get therapy about. Sad is such an understatement. They're not treating Laura like crap. They are civil. Those are two different things. As per this sub, no empathy for the emotionally traumatized kids who have grown out of their anger, matured, understand their sister wants a relationship with Laura, and support it, and are civil with Laura at events. And why are we making up that their dad got a pass? OP said after the divorce they all resented him and stopped staying the night with him as soon as they legally could make that decision. Nothing in the post mentioned if they have a relationship with him now. They were civil to Laura at OP's wedding, but are uninterested in a relationship with her, which is fine. Our next post is by user WillingGear6147, titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to service my tenant's furnace unless they get rid of their dog? So I'm an individual who rents out my spare home. I'm not a business, it's just something I do to supplement my income. Officially, I don't allow dogs, but my tenants didn't bother to abide by it and my hands are tied. I can't force them to get rid of the dog because a tenant has rights, and despite this friction, I like to think we have a good landlord-tenant relationship. My tenant told me their AC stopped working and their furnace needs to be serviced. I'm a licensed HVAC technician and electrician, so almost all work on the house I handle myself. but I refuse to do work unless they at the very least remove the dog for a period of time so that I can do the work, and they refused. I don't really like dogs. When I was very young, I lost part of my finger due to a dog bite. I was 5, and later in my teens, I was attacked by a neighbor's GSD. I'm very uneasy around dogs and refuse to be around big dogs entirely. For context, my tenants have a husky. I've been hounded, pun intended, to get things fixed, but I won't budge about the dog situation. I refuse to go on the premises while the dog is there, even locked in a room. I also refuse to out-hire the work because I can do it myself for next to nothing. Am I the asshole? And edit, just since it came up a bunch of times, I live in Ontario, where a landlord cannot legally forbid pets on rented property. They are not in breach of contract because it's not in our contract. As much as I want to tread carefully, and I think we should tread carefully and respect those with trauma, I do think the legalities of this situation leak into your moral obligation to your tenant here. They're living in Ontario, their AC stopped working, and their furnace needs to be serviced. I haven't lived or been to Ontario, but it is Canada, and Canada can get bloody cold. Maybe even bloody hot at different times, who knows? I feel like either you not going there and just servicing it, or getting someone to come out and service it. I don't know, that's morally weird that you're not going to do that for them. I mean, you're probably enjoying your own AC and furnace at your own place, but you're depriving them of that because you won't budge? That doesn't seem right to me, and I think you're the asshole for that. Now in the comments, Black Mamba number 5 says, "You're the asshole. I don't have an issue with you not going over. Your trauma is reasonable. But you're a landlord, and you're right. Tenants have rights. It is your responsibility to make the premises livable. I'm not sure where you're located, but if it's in the US, it's summer and one of the hottest on record. They're paying you to live in a livable space. If you continue to take rent, you are required to fix it. Your excuse about not hiring an outside handy person simply because you can fix it is not reasonable. You clearly cannot fix it because you can't enter the home. Hire out, you're the arsehole." Agreed. So strange to me that this person seems to have a gripe with the fact that tenants have protections. He can just hire a frickin' contractor. Who cares about his fear of dogs? That only stops him from fixing it, not anybody else. He's using an excuse to get out of spending money on the property he can't be bothered keeping up to standard. I agree, and that's what majorly makes OP the arsehole. However, what makes me furious is that OP seems upset that his tenants have protections. Lose a landlord. Disagree. Tenants knew before moving in that dogs would be a problem, but went ahead and created that problem. It is completely reasonable that the tenant remove the dog from the home when the work is taking place. Trying to work while the dog is perhaps barking and throwing himself against a door is untenable. And just contract to someone else? Well, this someone else may just as easily have a problem with a loose dog as well. Some handymen will not come if there's a dog on the premises. There are also lots of situations where dogs cannot be on the premises, like spraying for bed bugs and re-enameling bathtubs are two that come to mind. It may also not be financially viable in the long run for the landlord to contract out the work. That he can do the work himself is probably part of how he's making the landlord thing work. Landlord? Yes, I will rent to you but no dogs. Tenant? Okay. Also tenant gets a largish dog. Tenant says come fix stuff. Landlord replies okay but remove dog from premises while I do. Yeah, not gonna do that. Not the arsehole OP. He lives in Ontario. No pet clauses in a lease are explicitly called out as illegal and non-enforceable under the Ontario Tenant Act. Also, any appliance present in the unit provided by the landlord is his responsibility to fix. The landlord could end up paying the tenant if he isn't careful. Rack 1882 says, "You're the asshole. If you aren't allowed to forbid the animal to be on the property and you're renting out the property, you need to fix it or hire someone to do so. There is no requirement that you save money by not hiring out the work. So I think the better question is whether you want this to end up in court and have a judge decide who's right. How landlord-friendly is Ontario? Do you want to find out? Look, Ontario is pretty tenant-friendly, and the OP is 100% in violation of his duty as a landlord for refusing to service the furnace or arrange for it to be serviced. And if the AC is listed in the lease, not fixing that is a violation on OP's part. Am I the asshole for calling my fiance's sister an idiot for her rude comments about the number of siblings I have? To start, I've got 8 other siblings, as there's 9 of us in total. 2 of my brothers are biological, and the rest are foster siblings, but we're all very close. To me, they're my real family, so I don't really introduce them as anything other than my brothers and sisters. I'm getting married in a few months, and all my brothers are going to be my groomsmen, while my sisters were asked by my fiancé to be her bridesmaids. My fiance's sister Kate is someone we don't talk to much, but still her parents convinced her to let Kate be a part of it. Recently, our families met up for a barbecue at our place, and this is the first time her family meets mine. Well, except her parents, since they couldn't make it. I introduced my siblings to everyone. At some point, when we were talking to her sister, she says, "Your parents seriously had 9 kids?" She said it with so much disgust. She seemed really mad about it. I told her yes, and Kate goes about how she thinks my parents were selfish and reckless for never figuring out how to use a condom, and don't they know how stupid they are for having so many kids when there's already overpopulation? Part of me found it funny, but also very annoyed for thinking that's something she even thought was okay to say about people she just met. So I told her they were foster parents, and only 2 of my brothers are biologically related. Not that it's any of her business to critique other people's lives. She looked embarrassed and apologized, but then she got mad. Kate says that's something I could have mentioned, so to avoid her saying the wrong thing. And I told her about how next time she just doesn't say anything at all and avoid looking like an idiot. My fiancé laughed a little, but Kate got mad. She walked off and made a comment to my fiancé's other sister and cousin about what I said. They know the context, but still, I think I was an asshole because Kate was just bringing awareness to what she thought was something bad, and it wasn't necessary to call her names. She doesn't want to talk to me now, and while that doesn't bother me at all, I do wonder, was I an asshole at all for doing that? I think I'm just on your side for this one. Kate shouldn't have said that at all. She didn't need a heads up so as to say something that was stupid, because she has enough self-awareness here to realize what she said was stupid, but not enough self-awareness to apologize for that. This seems like it's all entirely her fault, and she's the one that needs to fix this situation. You've not done anything wrong in my opinion, so I'm saying not the arsehole. Now in the comments, Squinky75 says, quote, "Kate was just bringing awareness to what she thought was something bad." Who asked her? Your parents don't need her permission. Also, if they were biological, what are you supposed to do? Shove them all back up your mother? Get back in there, Linda. Kate says you don't deserve to be alive. And OP says, I laughing crying emojis. Thank you. I needed a good laugh. Also, weren't you also just bringing attention to something you thought was bad? Judging people and disparaging them before having all the details? Why is that any different? Exactly. And as someone who is one of 9 full biological siblings, who's to say the parents didn't use various forms of birth control that failed? It's not the sister-in-law's business either way. Substantial Fox says, not the asshole. She should be thankful she just looks like an idiot for her views, rather than seriously offending people because she doesn't agree with the idea of a couple having multiple biological children. Not her life to judge. She was silly to assume something, and when you assume, you only serve to make an ass out of you, not me. Holy crap, if she'd said that in front of me, I'd have so emotionally scarred her that she'd be afraid of redheads for the rest of her life. I'm from a family almost exactly the same size as OP's, and 7 of them are either fosters or adopted after we fostered them. Some didn't want to be legally adopted, which of course my parents agreed to respect their feelings about it. To say we're all protective of each other is an understatement. And dear God, the sister would have been begging me to traumatize her some more if my mum or grandmother got a hold of her. My relatives take that family is more than blood saying to heart and tolerate no BS about it. And Crizilla says, not the asshole. If she didn't have anything nice to say, she shouldn't have said anything at all. Seriously, what was her endgame in bringing something like that up? And OP replies, honestly no idea. My fiancé doesn't spend a lot of time with her for certain reasons. Yeah, like, what did she expect? Your parents be like, oh crap, you're right, let's suck them back up. If they were biological. They're here regardless. Being crappy does nothing but sour relations. Our next post is by user DieIndustry9818, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my brother that my nieces are no longer welcome to parties hosted by me? So my older brother has two girls, 14 and 13 female. They are 18 months apart in age, but were never close. A couple of years ago, they went from not close to despising each other. Before, they would do their own things, didn't seem to seek each other out or like playing together, but they didn't fight. Now they can't be around each other without wishing they were an only child, yelling, cursing, and all of this other stuff. My son is 13 and told me before that they have wished that the other dead as well. And that when he was at my brother's one weekend, he and my sister-in-law were looking after him while we took our daughter out of state for a hospital thing, and he said they both told him they despised the other, and he saw them fight so many times. Apparently the eldest has been asking to live with my parents for a while now, but her parents say no. While my son was there, she asked, and she told him that she was asking for more than a year because she doesn't want to share the same house as her sister anymore. My dad's birthday in June was the last straw for me. They do fight at family parties and events, but what happened was my sister-in-law wanted a photo of the girls with my parents. They were standing either side of my parents, and my sister-in-law tried to make them stand together. My brother said that sisters should be side by side in family photos, and the 13-year-old went off. She said that's for siblings who love each other, but she never loved her older sister. She didn't want an older sister, and she would never take a picture beside her, ever. That she would rather be put into foster care and never see us again than see the oldest. Which the oldest then said that none of this would have happened if the parents had listened to her, and that she was tired of being around her younger sister the whole time. My daughter's birthday is coming up, and I don't want them ruining it. So I told my brother the girls won't be invited going forward. That unless they magically go back to how they were before, I don't want a scene at everything, and for parties and celebrations to be spoiled by their vicious fighting and hatred for each other. He told me I can't do that, and they are family. They should be given a chance every time. He told me that I was being unreasonable and setting a bad example. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, EasternWater9701 says, you're not an asshole, but everyone else sucks. Why is no one doing anything for these two girls? This isn't normal. They are clearly both deeply unhappy. I agree. The parents are fully aware of all this, but seemingly do nothing about it but make things worse. I agree. Most teenagers are reclusive and don't tell you what is bothering them. These two are desperate for time away from one another, and no matter how clearly they spell it out, no one listens. Banning the girls from a party is probably going to cause a fight between the two, each blaming the other, and I think the more productive path is to uninvite the brother as well until he can get them help, therapy, or as simple as each spend a week at grandma's so they get 2 weeks away from the other and being the center of attention. I agree. And I agree with what you said about the ban causing a fight between them with each other blaming each other. I think the reason why they fight so much is possibly because they maybe were forced to be best friends when younger. Possibly even other stuff like if one couldn't go somewhere, neither could. Exact same gifts, both need to have the same friends, etc. I'm also curious if they share one bedroom since they're both girls and really don't get an escape from each other if they aren't that desperate for space. Or even the 13-year-old's reaction about not wanting an older sister while the 14-year-old just doesn't want to live there anymore. I wonder if the 14-year-old is used to babysitting the 13-year-old since she is her youngest sister. There's something about the siblings' dynamics that I feel are being affected by the adults, or even the adults are the main reason for this. Crash SC says, not the asshole. If your brother has a problem with you not wanting insanity and disruption in your home, then he needs to get his house in order. It's not your responsibility to give your nieces a chance to not ruin everything. Side note, that behavior is not normal, and your brother and sister-in-law should be doing something about it. The fact that OP's brother thinks OP is the issue and not the behavior of his kids makes me think there is something in the home that fostered this behavior. Siblings fight, some more than others, but for it to reach this level, there is something off in the home. Our next post is by user ActiveMany6036, titled, "Am I the asshole for being upset at a girl for bringing her dog to my apartment?" It was my birthday recently, so I decided to host a little get-together. I wasn't expecting gifts or anything, I just wanted an excuse to throw a party, drink, chat, order food, etc. I invited most of my friends, and a few of them asked if they could bring a +1, which I said yes to. I don't mind a bit of a crowd. One of my friends asked if he could bring his girlfriend along, and I didn't or don't really know her, but I met her a couple of times before, so it was cool with me. The party rolls around and people start showing up. I haven't seen a lot of them in person for a while, so we were enjoying catching up and just shooting the crap. Eventually, my friend and his girlfriend show up. I go to open the door, and she has a little brown Pomeranian, I think, in her arms. This caught me off guard because I had no idea she was going to bring her dog over. My friend then pulled me aside and asked if the dog was cool, to which I just said yes to avoid causing problems. I'm not the biggest fan of dogs, and I didn't really want it over, but I just shrugged and tried not to think about it. Well, as soon as she walked in, everyone was all, "Aww," and clamored around the little thing. They were really enjoying playing with her and whatever, which normally wouldn't annoy me, but it got to the point where I felt like her and her dog were the center of the party that I'm hosting. It felt like the dog was taking away my conversation time with them, and eventually like 7 people formed a circle around the dog and played with her for like half an hour. Again, I hadn't seen a lot of these people in a while and was looking forward to catching up. Then a couple hours into the night, another buddy came up to me and said that he had to go early. I didn't know this, but apparently he's allergic to dogs, so he was congested, coughing, and generally feeling off. So he had to leave, and that kinda solidified my annoyance with her dog. I hadn't thought of people possibly being allergic, and if I had known, I would have said no to her bringing it at all. A couple of days after, I messaged the friend whose girlfriend brought the dog, and I let him know that I'd prefer if he asked me before she brought it. He was cool and apologized, but that message found its way to his girlfriend because the day after that, I got a message from her saying that I was being really disrespectful towards her and her dog. Long story short, the conversation wasn't going anywhere, so it ended with me telling her that she's not welcome in my apartment if she's gonna be that way. Well, she told her boyfriend, my friend, about it, and now he thinks I'm being unreasonable. My argument is that I was being reasonable enough by letting her bring it in the first place, even though she didn't ask me. Keep in mind, I'm just acquainted with this girl, and it was her first ever coming over. Her and her boyfriend say that I'm being immature for getting upset that a dog stole the attention at the party since it's so trivial. What do you think? Am I the asshole here? Honestly, I own 2 chihuahuas and I don't think it's unreasonable that you'd get upset at her for bringing a Pomeranian to a party. If I were to put myself in that situation and someone left because they were allergic to the dog, I'd feel pretty terrible about myself. I'd be like, yep, I did the wrong thing here. I didn't ask before bringing my little devil over to this party. I really feel like your friend did you dirty there by passing the messages on to the girlfriend, because she really didn't take that the right way. I'm sorry, but she's the one that brought the dog to the party uninvited. That wasn't an OK +1. She has no right to be angry in this situation. That's a stupid entitled mentality if I've ever seen one. You're not out of line for banning her from your apartment. It's your apartment, your house, your rules. You do whatever the hell you want, man. I don't blame you for what you've done here. I would do the same thing. She's shown herself to be incredibly disrespectful and uncaring of, your rules and other people's allergies, it would seem. You were really lenient. You didn't even bring it up at the party. You waited until afterwards. You were polite about it. Bless you, OP. Not the asshole. Now in the comments, Wondered Far says, not the asshole. How bizarre and irresponsible for her to bring a small dog into someone else's apartment uninvited. You could have had a larger dog with a strong prey drive. You might have dropped something fatally dangerous to dogs on the floor, like a piece of sugar-free gum, that you wouldn't even consider if you only had adults and no animals. You or someone there could have been allergic, and was. Yeah, I love dogs, but I craft a lot in my apartment, and it's just not necessarily safe for dogs. I would at least want a chance to dog-proof my home. Not the asshole. I'm a dog lover, but I would never just show up to anyone's home, let alone someone I don't really know, with my dog without getting their consent first. I don't know how the girlfriend feels that you're being disrespectful by wanting her to ask before bringing her dog to your home, but she seems entitled. I'm a total dog person, but I never cease to be surprised how some people seem to think that their dog should be welcome everywhere and just show up with it unannounced. I don't even bring my human kids places without first checking to see if it's okay with the host, and the chances of someone being allergic to them is pretty low, but not impossible. Annoyed by them, sure. Hell, I am sometimes too, but not allergic. Is this a common thing with parents? I have some friends with kids, and one couple checks with me if they can bring their kids every single time. I thought they were just being weird, lol. I love kids and don't tend to host kid-inappropriate stuff, and even keep coloring books around for them. I try really hard to be kid-friendly, and honestly, was kind of worried their asking might be a sign I was doing something wrong and not making them feel welcome. Yup, I always double-check if my kids are invited to things. I would never want to impose, and I need to know in advance to get childcare if kids aren't welcome. And Love Beach 8 says, everyone sucks here. Sorry, but your big mistake was to say that it was okay and let her in with her dog. You need to grow a spine and tell the truth up front, not a couple of days later. Your friend, her boyfriend, should have asked first. You don't just show up at someone's house with your dog or whatever pet. People do have allergies. Some people have a cat or whatever and don't want your pet in their house, and others just don't like other animals in their home. Yeah, but the time to ask if it's okay to bring your dog is before you leave the house, not when you arrive at the party. Exactly. When faced with a fait accompli, it's kind of hard to change the situation. Our next post is by user FairAd4118, titled, Would I be the asshole if I remove my husband's giant retro game/console collection and clear out his home office without him knowing? My husband and I bought our first home together about 6 years ago. The house is quite small, but it has 3 bedrooms, and the location and plot size are great. I was pregnant at the time with our first child, and we were planning one more kid later on. With 3 bedrooms, the possibility of a private space for everyone should be there. But my husband works from home office, which he has for the past 10 years. When we were viewing the house, I pointed out how space will be an issue, us being a growing family and him needing a room for his office. He told me that his employer will pay for an office out of house should the need be there. We went ahead and bought the house, and we made a deal. Him using a bedroom as an office is temporary. He will have to give it up for our oldest child when the kids start school, at the latest. Now on to the issue. It has been 6 years, and our oldest is starting school. My husband is a collector of anything retro or gaming related. His office is filled from floor to roof with old games, consoles, etc. His collection also fills our basement living room, which is unusable due to the amount of stuff in there, and has been since we moved in, and a small storage room. I've spent the last year trying to get him to start clearing it, but he won't have it. He is flat out refusing to give up his office, and also suddenly claims there's no way his employer will pay for an out-of-house office. I have been nice about this for all this time, even if his massive hoard is making our entire basement inaccessible. But I have been clear that when our oldest starts school, it's a given that the kid gets both a private bedroom and gets to use the basement living room. I'll add that, at the moment, the two kids share a 2.4 meter by 2.3 meter bedroom that basically only fits 2 junior-sized beds and 2 small closets. My husband uses by far the largest bedroom as his office. When I try to have a conversation with him about it, he'll immediately shut it down and avoid a discussion by getting angry and upset. I know it's difficult for him to deal with parting with his collection, but our house just isn't big enough to keep all of it. I'm now considering boxing up all his stuff, and I take great care that nothing gets damaged, and find some place to store it when he's away next weekend. But I'm pretty sure he'll blow up and throw a fit in front of the kids, and I don't want to expose them to that. And edit, I realize from comments that if he's a hoarder, that I'm triggering his anxiety whenever I bring up clearing the rooms. I decided to try to have one last talk about it, but be tactful and gentle about it. Well, as soon as I entered his office, I guess he knew why I was there, because the second I opened my mouth to talk and he got it confirmed, he became upset. Next thing I know, he's boxing up all of his stuff in a fit of rage and hauling it over to his parents. So the rooms are cleared now, and when he was finished, he was completely calm and told me he realized he isn't attached to his collection anymore, and that he probably had been addicted to collecting itself, not the collection. I suggested couples therapy to get some help with our communication issues, but he's not interested, seeing as the rooms are cleared now and problem solved. Look, I know people are upset when I read these edits as they're kind of like, after the fact, the problem has been solved, quote unquote, but I still feel like it's necessary to read that in chronological order. There is definitely something going on with the husband. I don't think it's like infidelity or anything, no, but there's definitely an issue that I think needs to be talked out. OP has obviously pointed this out, saying, problem solved, quote unquote, and he's not interested in going to couples therapy. I feel like if your partner wants to go to couples therapy and they suggest there's an issue, you shutting it down while knowing that there has been an issue, that's just unhealthy. That's not a good relationship dynamic. That's just very odd to me. Personally, for the entire story, I think OP is not the asshole for this one. I feel like most of the problem lies on him, and I don't think OP has done much to be at fault for this. Now in the comments, Kind Crow says, everyone sucks here. Your husband is being incredibly selfish, and you're frustrated enough to take matters into your own hands. This won't end well. You need marriage counseling, stat. And also, your husband needs regular therapy. He's clearly a hoarder. Not being able to use the living room to live in? He's having issues. The basement living room. Probably just an extra living space, still a problem though. Which could make a great office if cleaned and organized. And that's what I thought as well. Webby Vanderquack says, everyone sucks here. Him more for the reasons you've outlined, but I don't think it would be right to do this without at least telling him you're going to do it. It sets a bad precedent, destroys what trust there is, and creates a monster of a conflict that will take a lot of energy to resolve. And OP replies, I figured I'd grab the opportunity while he's away, since he normally never leaves the house for an overnight stay. But yes, I see your point. If you do this, it will immediately explosively backfire in a really ugly way, and you will permanently damage your relationship with him. The solution here isn't throw away all his cherished items without his knowledge or consent, he will be totally fine. What are you thinking? Both of you need marriage counseling, and him likely separate therapy. Well, to be fair, she never intended to throw them away, just box them up and move them to another part of their house. Hubby has taken over an entire bedroom, the entire basement, a storage room, and his half of his own bedroom. His two kids share a room. I agree being sneaky about it is absolutely the wrong way to go, but let's not act as if she's trashing his important belongings. This is clearly a very stressful situation for her, not only taking care to make sure her children have the space they need, but also trying to help a husband with a clear hoarding problem, who refuses to help himself. Yeah, but she already did. It was brought up regularly. Now it's time to make decisions about her kids growing up in a hoard. Am I the asshole for making a scene of my adult son and sticking my nose in his marriage? I'm 60 and bad with the whole text thing on mobiles, so I'm hoping I won't be judged on my grammar. Here's the important background. My daughter-in-law, 32, and my son, 33, have 3 children aged 3 years, 2 years, and 4 months. He convinced her to be a stay-at-home mum and sell her business by telling her how good of a childhood he had and how happy my marriage was without telling her, which I today found out, that our arrangement was everything before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. was split 50-50, Sunday was my day off, and I was brought out twice a week. On to the story. On my last visit, I noticed my daughter-in-law was struggling mentally, so I, my sister, and her girlfriend pulled our money together and paid for a spa weekend for them while we'd babysit the kids for her birthday last weekend. I was preparing on Thursday evening for the kids to arrive when my daughter-in-law rang me holding back tears, saying they won't be going because my son's friend came to town and he said he wanted to spend the weekend with his friends catching up. I pressed her a little, and I'm talking a little about her situation, and she came clean about him doing no chores, no date nights, and her doing basically all of the childcare because that's what stay-at-home mums do. I was honestly disgusted. I convinced her to drop me off the kids and bring a friend to the spa, and I even dipped into my savings to give her 500 euros to buy herself something nice. When she dropped off the kids to me, I begged her to tell me where my son was, and after 5 minutes, she told me he was at the bar. She left for the spa while I left for the bar. She knew I was going there and knew my sister and my sister-in-law were taking care of the kids. Here is where I might be the asshole. When I went to the bar, where he and his friends were, I sat down next to the group and asked my son, "Did I fail you as a mother, or was it your father? Because both thought your partner comes before your silly drunk friends." Now this post is getting long enough, but long story short, I humiliated him and got myself banned from a bar. My daughter-in-law said she'll be taking the kids to her parents when she gets back tomorrow, and my son is calling me an asshole for humiliating him and sticking my nose in his marriage. Maybe I should have stayed out. I don't know. And edit, I just wanted to say I'm heartbroken, not by any judgmental words towards me or my parenting skills, but the fact that a lot of people are shocked I care about my daughter-in-law's mental health and stood up for her against my son's bad behavior. I just wanted to say, as a mother, my advice is treat your daughter, son, and non-binary in-laws how you'd want your children to be treated. Respect goes a long way. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I went full-on Karen in a bar and humiliated my son when I could have tried to talk to him, and maybe they wouldn't be having problems in their marriage now. I applaud you for going off on your son. I feel like that was the right thing to do in this situation. He needs a slap of reality right in his face. To be so neglectful, and then on top of that uncaring of her mental health, as well as the huge workload your son has put on her, it's just disgraceful. He deserves much more than just being humiliated at the bar in front of his friends. I think you've done the right thing, and I think you can do a lot more, honestly. Not the asshole, OP. Now in the comments, Bamf says, "It sounds like your misogynistic son needed some humiliation and to have someone stick their nose into his marriage. It's not like you're a stranger. You are his mother. Also, this is not a minor thing. This is your son treating his wife like a servant, not a spouse." And OP replies, "I honestly don't know where this attitude comes from. His father treated me with respect and his brothers seem to be respectful to their parents too." Well, since you're on a roll right now, maybe call each of their partners too, just in case. And OP replies, "Oh, I did, believe me. I rang each one of my kids and their partners. My son's partners Jackson, Sarah, and Bella were all surprised at what happened and assured me my sons would be single if they were mistreated the same with my girls' partners." Well, you did a good job raising your kids. Maybe your problem son has been influenced by his friends, or even online. But it's really reassuring that you've checked with your other daughters-in-law and they're okay. Definitely online. Sounds like he's listened to one too many evolutionary psychologist podcasts. Women are gatherers and men are hunters, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Not the asshole. Your son sounds like an asshole though, and he convinced her to become a stay-at-home mom so he could avoid being a dad? And I'm sure that if she worked, she would still be expected to do everything at home and care for the kids in the evenings and on weekends. Absolutely. But this way he can justify it by saying that she stays home. Not to mention control her by having sole financial control. And Vulpix Raw says, not the arsehole. Good on you for sticking up for your daughter-in-law. Your son needs a serious reality check. 3 babies and all the chores? He's nuts! I'm so relieved for daughter-in-law. Having mother-in-law react like this probably helped give her the strength that she needed to get out. OP, you really did right by her, and by your grandkids, and long-term, by your son as well. He needed a wake-up call. Our next post is by user Rain on Me Panda, titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to take my friend's package with me internationally without opening and checking it first? So, I will soon be flying to the other side of the world, and my friend asked me to take a package with me and deliver it to her friend who lives in the country I'm flying to. Now, I trust my friend with my life, but I told her that since it's an international flight and taking unneeded risks are unwise, I would appreciate it if I can open the package with her present and look through it just to make sure there's nothing undesirable in it. My friend immediately gets offended, and she even starts yelling at me, telling me how she can't believe that I don't trust her and that I am invading her privacy. She told me I'm being selfish and paranoid, and that she won't let me see inside the package because it has sensitive content. That ended up freaking me out more. So I told her that I can't do it if I can't make sure it's safe, and that I'm sorry. She started to cry and left the room. She later left me a text saying that I'm selfish and that she doesn't want to talk to me anymore. Now, while I feel bad, I've heard all kinds of stories, and I don't want to be put into a position where I'm responsible for whatever sensitive content is in her package. Reddit, am I the asshole? And Edit 1, a comment here made me want to add more context. I trust my friend a lot, but I should have mentioned that my friend is known to cultivate weed and then store them in spice jars. I could have sworn I heard noises of glass in the package, and she's joked before that she could smuggle weed disguised as a spice or herb or something, and that they wouldn't know a thing. Now, I do trust her, but I just want peace of mind, you know? I'm sad she's offended, but I just wish she could understand my point of view. No! Oh my god, I'm reading the edits later on that I'm gonna have to get to after this one. They mentioned the refrigerated olives too. If I don't know what was in those refrigerated olives, there's no way in hell I'm trusting this friend much more than I am trusting her with this spice weed to smuggle internationally. I'm not trying to be Chappelle Corby here. Oh my god, this friend sucks. I'm sorry, OP, your friend absolutely sucks. There is no way in hell any logical person would ever do this. She even said that it's sensitive content and you heard glass clinking. How are you not supposed to just take from that she's trying to get you to smuggle weed to her friend in another country? Like, the option is there to send it internationally, yet she won't let it be on her own hands, because she'd have to put her name and sign off on it to send that internationally, and she knows she'd get in trouble. No, screw this friend, never do that, not the asshole. Now in the comments, Feral Hat says, not the asshole, major red flag, don't frickin' do it. This, a woman in South Africa was arrested in the year 1992, I think. A friend of hers gave her a package that had books. Turns out on the seal of the books there was hidden cocaine. She got arrested in Bangkok. She gave birth there as she was pregnant, and she spent 25 years there because she didn't check what was in the package her friend gave her. Yeah, I hate to be a paranoid patty, but my first thought was that OP could get in serious legal trouble internationally because of her friend trying to sneak something over on her and thinking that it's not a big deal. The problem is, in many countries, it is in fact a big deal, not the asshole. And in some countries, hint hint the Philippines, depending on what you're trying to bring in, it could end up with you getting a death sentence. Edit, not the asshole. At the end of last year, a woman ended up with a death sentence for smuggling drugs into a country. She was bringing something for a man that she'd met online, who, of course, disappeared. And Saint Alva says, not the asshole. Quote, she told me I'm being selfish and paranoid. Paranoid is exactly what any reasonable person should be in this super sketchy situation. Look, I got my high school boyfriend a naughty DVD and hid it in a CD case and wrapped it as a gift. My sister was nosy and insisted on seeing the present, and I flipped out on her. Pretty much every other gift I've given in my life I'd have shown others because those weren't contraband. Her reaction is super sus, especially as an adult between friends. Even if it was porn, or something else just naughty but not illegal, it might be embarrassing to fess up, but worth it to have your package delivered. I can't imagine what she'd be reacting to if the contents weren't illegal. And Habba87 says, not the asshole. Customs asks if you've packed everything yourself. You would either have to 1. Admit you hadn't and they'd open it in front of you, or 2. Lie, which is a crime, and say that you had, at which point your sweaty, twitchy eyes or guilty voice would give it away and they'd open it in front of you. Is this a legit loophole? I didn't open it, but I didn't lie to the customs guy about packing it myself either. Not my problem what he did with that information. And not the asshole, I would be quite happy for the courier to pour through anything like that till they were satisfied. If it was legit sensitive, you shouldn't be spending it with some rando civilian. If it's just in your suitcase, they'll assume that it belongs to you. How many smugglers do you think are just carrying that for a friend? Now back to the post, edit 2. Wow, I woke up to so much engagement in this post. Thank you for all your replies and assuring me that I'm not the asshole. And thanks for the awards. As for updates, my friend hasn't spoken to me since the incident and has had a message delivered to me via mutual friend saying that the only way she'll talk to me is if I take this package from her and trust in our friendship. However, I had heard from my other friend that the person I was supposed to deliver the package to has a reputation involving drugs. And while we didn't get into details, my friend just said, and not for using them. I don't want to accuse anyone of anything, rumors fly and innocent until proven guilty, but I'm definitely not taking that package anymore, unless I can get a pretty good look at it. In edit 3, I just saw a comment asking me if I know a Jason who stores olives in his fridge. I replied this to them. Sorry for replying late. Funny enough, her boyfriend's name is Jason. Fun fact to enhance the story, he loves a show called Breaking Bad, so that he legally gave himself the middle name Walter. But sadly, I do not know if they keep their olives refrigerated. And I just read the story in question about Jason and his refrigerated olives. There may be a connection, but then again, most likely not. I'll try my best to do some digging, but if I'm honest, I'm kind of freaked out enough by the situation to avoid investigating anything for my own safety. And I'll update this story as long as you guys are interested. Once again, thank you all. And at the top of the post there is a final update. Thank you all for the awards and comments. I'm known to be a huge pushover, and my friend knows this to be true, and she can be pretty manipulative and caused me to second guess myself. She also still isn't talking to me, which is fine by me. As for the package, our mutual friend found the box that it was supposed to be shipped in by the trash in front of her house, so I guess she isn't shipping it anymore. I don't know what was in it, but all evidence and other context, which is too long to post, points to it being a substance. At this point, I'm hoping that it was just weed and not something more dangerous. Once again, thank you everyone. And our next post is by user Zilch6110, titled, Am I the asshole for purposefully sending my cousin the wrong timing for a movie so the others could enjoy? So my 16 female brother Nate, 17 male, was diagnosed with IED when he was 12. Is he literally an IED or something? Is he gonna explode if I touch him? Now, at first I walked on eggshells around him, but things are much better now. Most family members know and understand that IED is not just tantrums, but a serious issue, and some do not. One of my cousins, Kira, 17 female, is one of those people. Ever since my parents informed the family about Nate being diagnosed, she's done nothing but intentionally push his buttons at every family gathering, outing, or whenever we are together. My parents have talked to my uncle and aunt about this, but they'd brushed it off, calling it pranks. Now, my parents will not under any cost damage relationships with my dad's brother and his family or my dad's other siblings. None of my other cousins like Kira or her family. We are forced to be cordial because of our parents. Kira has to be invited every time us cousins hang out together, most of the time ending with Nate being triggered by Kira. The day before yesterday, we all planned to watch a movie. Our parents knew this, so of course they told Kira's parents, who told her. She messaged me and asked where and when we were all supposed to meet at. My brother had really been looking forward to this movie and meeting our cousins after a few months in person. He had also been in a really good mood, and I didn't want Kira to ruin it, so I did what I thought was best at the time. I gave her the wrong timing. I told my cousins and Nate what I did, and they were fully on board. After the movie finished, we came out of the theater and waited for some time in the parking lot. As soon as we saw Kira pulling over, waving at us, all of us waved back with the sweetest smiles, made a run for our cars, got in, and left. As expected, when me and Nate reached home, we were immediately ambushed by our parents about why we abandoned Kira. Apparently, she had cried all the way home. My parents grounded me and Nate for 2 weeks. He surprisingly took it well and said it was worth it. The rest of my cousins were grounded as well. I did text them, telling them they could tell their parents that it was my idea, but my cousins refused and reiterated what my brother had said. I thought that was the end of it, but my parents have been really hurt by this, and said me and Nate humiliated them in front of Kira's parents, and that Kira had been inconsolable since. Edit. So a lot of people are wondering why I invited her rather than telling her outright not to come. I didn't invite her. My parents did. Also, if I tried to deny the invitation, then none of my aunts or uncles or my parents would have let us go. I see how waiting around may have been an asshole move. And IED is intermittent explosive disorder. So Reddit, I don't know. Am I the asshole? Look, I feel like what you did was a bit of a dick move, but given the circumstances, I think it's justified. So I think overall, you're not the asshole for this, but this action is a justified, asshole kind of move. If she won't respect his IED, she should never have to be invited to social situations with him in order to stop him from being triggered by her. She chooses not to care, she chooses to still want to hang out with you guys. Seems like it's a natural consequence of her actions. And yeah, the parents have to punish you guys for this and the cousins, but I don't know if that's completely fair on their parts when they know what she's like. That's just my 2 cents. I'd like to know what you guys think. I'm saying not the asshole. Now in the comments, FrontThought998 says, not the asshole. She can dish it, but she can't take it. Tell your uncle and aunt that it was just a prank, bro, and you don't understand why they're overreacting. They don't mind when their own child pranks others, so what's the problem? I'd normally not want to reply to petty with petty, but God, this needs to be the top answer for once. OP, please do this. It's really not petty. What OP did was an actual prank. What the cousin does to OP's brother is emotional warfare. I think a true prank leaves both parties laughing afterwards. The fact that all the cousins are okay with being grounded for 2 weeks means that Kira's peers are fed up with her behavior. Her parents aren't doing anyone a favor by forcing this interaction and failing to curb her behavior. They're raising an asshole who will eventually piss off the wrong person or find that she is alienating her friends. She'll end up alone eventually. Better now that she's young and has time to correct her BS. Not the asshole. Your parents are huge assholes for allowing your brother to be bullied just because they want to keep the peace. They would rather their child suffer than their lives get affected in the slightest. Agreed. My mum would defend me against one of my relatives being an asshole to me when I was younger. Honestly, what he did was great so that his brother could avoid being bullied. If it were up to me, I'd literally snap on my cousin for this. What I love is all the cousins holding the line. Notice that they all are taking the fall. OP was willing to take the blame, but all the cousins are like, nope, totally worth it. And Wetnib says, not the asshole. Does Kira prank all of you or just Nate? The fact that your entire family puts up with Kira's crap is why she keeps doing it. They are all enablers. Keep doing what y'all are doing. Maybe the grown-ups will finally get the message. And OP replies, it is just Nate. We all have learned to ignore her. Nate is the only one she can get to react because of the IED. You and all of your cousins should say that you decided since Kira loves pranks so much, you set one up for her to enjoy. If your parents want the pranks to stop, then all the pranks need to stop. If the pranks are fine, then she should expect a lot more of them. And our next post is by user Solid Schnoes, titled, Am I the asshole for pointing out my aunt has a favorite kid at a family dinner? So my aunt Mara, 45 female, has 2 kids, Reese, 13 female, and Lara, 9 female. Mara has always clearly preferred Lara. Reese always knew it too. My aunt has always made sure that Lara can do the extracurriculars she wants to do. She lets her drop out at any time, even if she's paid in advance. She gives her the birthday she wants every year, and in general, she's more affectionate and interested in what Lara is up to. With Reese, she pushed her into dance when she was 5 and made her do dance for 4 years. Reese never liked dance and never seemed to fit in. Mara hated it. She would ask her why she couldn't put more effort in, etc. That she always wanted a daughter who did dance. I, 18 female, was around there a lot because Aunt Mara babysat me for my parents while they worked, and then I just had to wait at her house until my parents got home so we could save on electric bills and other stuff like that. I once asked Aunt Mara why Reese couldn't do something she wanted to do, and she told me they didn't have money for it. Reese never got to do another one, but Lara has several. Soccer, dance, art, and swim right now. But she's also done basketball, photography, gymnastics, which really upset Reese because she always wanted to do gymnastics, guitar, piano, drums, and singing. Aunt Mara also discards Reese's plans and has made her cancel it to look after her sister, but also made Reese skip her plans when Lara has them and they conflict. In the last year and a half, Reese has just decided to say screw everyone. She's definitely weighed down by it all. We talk about it because she said that I'm the only one who acknowledges it, but I have definitely noticed. We were all gathered for a family dinner on Sunday. It was my grandparents' birthday this week, so the family decided to celebrate on Sunday, and Reese was in a really bad mood. Aunt Mara told her she was bringing down the mood, and Reese got up and left the table. Aunt Mara said she didn't know what was up with her, but she's always acting like the whole world is out to get her. I mentioned that maybe if she didn't show such blatant favoritism, Reese would be happier. My aunt and parents were pissed I would bring it up, my grandparents asked what I meant, and Aunt Mara said I didn't know what I was talking about, and Reese is such a drama queen. I told my grandparents what I meant and they were shocked. Aunt Mara said Reese never wanted to do anything. Grandma remembered how often Reese would ask to do gymnastics. My parents told me that it wasn't the correct time or place to bring it up, and I embarrassed Aunt Mara. Am I the asshole? My guy, family dinners on Sunday are the place to speak up and bring these things up. If you don't bring it up in front of everyone, where the problem can get addressed, you're going to bring it up with her in private and she's going to have the chance to shut it down and continue the status quo. I can see in a lot of families they'd think that's an asshole move because you're just pissing everyone off and you're starting a fight, people are going to leave in a sour mood, and the dinner is going to be ruined. We can't have our sanctimonious Sunday roast ruined now, can we? I for one think you did the right thing here, OP. Stand up against Aunt Mara, clarify the situation with the grandparents, make everyone else aware of it and have to actually do something about it, instead of being complicit and just ignoring the situation, much like everyone is ignoring Reese and her wants, needs, and feelings. Screw Aunt Mara, this was the correct time and place to bring it up, and she deserves to be embarrassed and fix the wrongs that she's done against Reese, not the asshole OP. Now in the comments, Ewan says, quote, my parents told me it wasn't the correct time or place to bring it up and I embarrassed Aunt Mara. Not the asshole. Your aunt's behavior is what embarrassed her, and it's going to have done so regardless of when you brought it up. The fact that OP's parents were okay with a child being treated that way is even more concerning. OP is not the asshole, but her parents obviously relied on Mara a lot for childcare and were in no position to criticize her. OP was taken care of, so screw Reese, right? OP's parents were very poor, according to her description. She hung out at Aunt's house in order to save electricity at her own home, so it's unlikely they had any other childcare options. Common sense says you don't put someone on blast when you desperately need their help. Welcome to the world of the working poor. Sometimes you have to eat crap to put food on the table. The problem here is the aunt. Good for OP for sticking up for your cousin, but she has nothing to lose here, so it's not a reflection on the character of her own parents that they never said anything. They may not even have known, given that they seem to work a lot. They owe the aunt a lot for providing years of free childcare and are not going to attack her, deserved or not. I couldn't have put this better myself. The parents may be morally incorrect in this instance, but they're also experiencing a lot of embarrassment that OP is reacting to Aunt with anything other than respect and gratitude. They may even agree with OP, but may not feel they're in a position to criticize someone who helped them raise their kid. Not saying the parents are right, but Auntie is demonstrably the asshole. Your aunt disgusts me. You're not the asshole, and my heart goes out to Reese. OP, please maintain a relationship with Reese as she gets older. Having realized this dynamic and possibly expressing symptoms of depression, her worst years are yet to come. I was the unloved child by my mother as well, and at 21, it's clear it's had a lifelong impact on me. I believe I would have been a bit better off if any of my family had acknowledged it and attempted to support me and maintain a relationship. Am I the asshole for not wanting my in-laws staying with us? I have 5 kids, quadruplets aged 5 and a 10-month-old, as well as in the early stages of pregnancy. My god, that's a lot of kids. There is only 3 bedrooms in our house. The quad's split between 2 rooms, and we have a room which we share with the baby. Obviously, there's not much room for them in my opinion. My sister-in-law and her husband want to stay with us for a month. Exclamation mark in brackets. Or until their baby arrives, as they want a specific hospital to give birth in, and which we are way closer to, and they are a month from their due date. My husband thinks we have enough room as the quads are at school all day, and thinks they can help out. I know them well enough to know that they won't. My sister-in-law is one of those people who does that from previous experience. He also thinks we can move all the quads into one room as they have bunk beds, but that'll only leave a bit of room, and it could be for over a month. I also don't think it's a good thing for her to stay with us because I'm having morning sickness, and her husband, the last time he was here, cleared out the freezer searching for some food, and then never put it back, and one of the kids tripped over it. Sister-in-law's family has packed the stuff that she's bringing, which is a lot of stuff that I doubt will fit in the room, and sent a picture of it to the family group chat saying, "This is my stuff I am bringing. Thanks for letting me stay, husband in my name." We haven't agreed on letting her stay, so I privately messaged her, as to not embarrass her in the group chat, saying, "Hey, is it possible for you to use some money I lent you a while ago to book yourself in a hotel room?" She didn't pay me back yet. She replied a thumbs up, so I thought that meant she was doing that, but then a few hours later she arrived at our door and just dumped her stuff in, and before I could talk to her, she went back down to grab more stuff. But I couldn't follow her, as I was the only adult in the house at the moment, and I didn't want to leave the kids in there by themselves. When she and her husband got back, they asked which room they should put their stuff in, and got the quads to help. I tried to stop them and explain to them that they cannot stay here, but they said that they had to stay. And when I tried to get them out of our home, they called me a tramp, in front of the kids, so I'm trying not to get them to repeat it. So now I'm stuck with the quadruplets in my bed and in the quadruplets room, with the sister-in-law and her husband in the other quadruplets room, until my husband gets home to try and talk to them. I want to know if I am the asshole. TLDR, sister-in-law thought it's okay to stay in my home, and when I asked her not to, she sent me a thumbs up, but showed up to our door and refuses to leave. Wow, that is one of the messiest posts I've seen to date, and that goddamn refrigerated olive story was a roller coaster in and of itself. I also want to know in what universe you expect 4 5-year-olds to be able to help you out properly. I just can't grasp that. I feel like a lot of 5-year-olds are completely inept and still in their own world. Like, sure, they can help entertain you a little bit, but dear Lord, that's a lot of maintenance just dealing with those. There's only so much help they can give you. Why does that continue to get repeated in this post? I don't understand. Do we have different experiences of 5-year-olds? From your side of the story, OP, I can see no redeeming qualities with this couple who have just come and steamrolled over you. Unless you can muster up the courage to kick them out right now, I'd wait until the husband gets home and you guys kick them out together. That's the only solution here. So to answer your question, am I the asshole for not wanting my in-laws staying with us? No. They've done nothing to earn the right to stay with you guys. They've just been terrible this whole time. Screw them. Now in the comments, OK Succotash says, not the asshole. Oh my god, your post literally blew my mind. I would give them a day to get the hell out. This is just insane. You need to learn to be firmer. And to edit to add, you need to read your husband the Riot Act before setting firmer boundaries with this family, because clearly your sister-in-law thinks she can walk all over you, and she has. I hate to make generalizations like this, but I think no one on the planet in OP's situation would be happy. Exactly. People like OP's sister-in-law are absolutely horrible, toxic humans. OP needs to stand up for herself, but nonetheless, it'll always be challenging and unhappy to deal with people like sister-in-law. Not the asshole. You have people in your home that you ask to leave, and they did not. Don't wait for your husband, you call the police, or tell them you will if they do not leave. You need to find out the renter and landlord laws in your state. It may be hard to force them out if they overstay their welcome, and since they showed up after you said no, they seem like the type of people who would. And edited info about renter-landlord laws as comments show, it could be less than 30 days and they could have rights. And OP replies, I'm gonna tell them I will when they wake up, although I don't want to go through with it. Look, I mean this in the nicest way. You really need some counseling about not being a doormat and standing up for yourself. No is a full sentence. They not only invited themselves for a month, 3 exclamation points in one bracket, but they are well known to be bad house guests. You've been well within your rights to kick someone out on the spot for emptying what is probably hundreds of dollars of food from a freezer and leaving it on the floor to be ruined. Not to mention, I don't know, the kids falling over and hurting themselves? You're also lending them money, which isn't being paid back. And back to the post, OP puts an update for us and says, I have moved their stuff outside and told them to get out of my home. They tried to make it wait until the morning, but now they're packing the car and I'm gonna put the kids back in their beds. Thank you, OP. Thank you for doing the right thing, dear Lord. Our next post is by user Malice Days, titled, Am I the asshole for taking my son on a trip I knew his step-siblings wanted to go on? My ex and I have a son, Kai, who's 11 years old. My ex and I broke up when he was 2, and my ex married his wife when Kai was 6. There's a lot of mess in ex's house regarding ex's stepkids, Mia and Logan, both 12. From what I gather, their dad has been bad-mouthing my ex and Kai from the beginning and poisoned the kids against them. I've always been hesitant to not do stuff that could be seen as me rubbing things in their faces, and because of the costly back and forth in court between his wife and her ex, my ex cannot afford to do big things with the kids. Kai had mentioned this trip that his step-siblings wanted to go on before. He told me he'd love to go, but really hoped they wouldn't go together because he didn't want to go with them because they wouldn't want him there, and he didn't like being around them. During the final week of school, some of Mia and Logan's friends were very cruel to Kai, and Mia and Logan were standing around laughing with them. At one point, it turned very dark, and the principal called the parents of all involved students. What transpired was Logan and Mia had told their friends something about Kai, and that and just general kid bullying was used to make him feel like crap. I was pissed. After the incident, I decided I needed to stop catering to the stuff my ex couldn't do with the kids and just do whatever, regardless of whether Mia and Logan dreamed of doing it. So I took my son on a trip to the place he told me he wanted to go, but not with his step-siblings. He had a great time, and I told him as long as he didn't brag or rub it in, we'd done nothing wrong because he worried a bit that Logan and Mia would be mad. My ex found out about it because Kai left a small trinket in his bag from the trip, and my ex found it. My ex called me and asked why I took Kai there, and I said because Kai wanted to go. Ex said his stepkids wanted to go too, and why would I take Kai someplace they'd likely want to go? I said I didn't care. I could take my son wherever I wanted. He told me it made me an ass because his stepkids have feelings too. He doesn't know that I knew they wanted to go, but am I the asshole here? I'm gonna go not the asshole because that last sentence right there, he doesn't know that I knew they wanted to go. He's attacking you for something that, from his perspective, you were ignorant to, and it would be stupid of you to tell him that you knew they wanted to go and you took Kai anyway. No one wins if you would say that, so there would be no reason to give him that information. He's an asshole for attacking you about taking Kai places, especially when his stepkids wanted to go. Cool, if they want to go so much, buddy, why don't you take them yourself? No reason to go attacking your ex because you can't take them those places. That's not your ex's fault. You're just an asshole. He also seems to just be ignoring the fact that his stepkids are bullying Kai, and that it went so far as the principal needed to go and call everyone to tell them what was going on. That's not just minor bullying right there. That takes it to the next level, I feel like. This ex seems to just be enabling disgusting behavior from his stepkids and doesn't seem to care about Kai's wants, feelings, or needs. Screw him, not the asshole OP. Continue looking after Kai and putting him first in your life. Unfortunately, the reality is that these things can lead to further bullying, even though you're trying to do the right thing. Now in the comments, Historical Ad 1493 says, not the asshole, with caution. As a former middle school principal and parent, I can tell you that the stepchildren are at an age where bullying especially rears its ugly head. Parents tell the bullied to ignore it, walk away, etc. Kai can't do that if he lives there and goes to school with them. Personally, I'd document everything, especially the school incident. I'd communicate with Kai a lot on how he's doing. I've successfully used the 1 to 10 scale after explaining that 1 is I need help now and 10 is everything is amazing. I'd ask, what are you today? I'd get a baseline. What I'd look for is a trend. And hopefully with strategies, support in any form and time, the days are more 7 to 10s than 2 to 5s. I used this over my career with students and my own children during hard times. If yesterday was a 4 and today's a 5, I'd concentrate on how it was better than yesterday and concentrate on tomorrow. This also worked very well for me when assessing my daughter's deep depression in the 8th grade. It was bad, and I needed some kind of baseline for when I needed to go extreme parenting. It happened, and I put her in counseling. She's great now, and early 20s. So for you, OP, I'd keep some kind of data/notes to see if there comes a time that you may need to revisit the boundaries of custody. Maybe they should only be at their dad's when the other kids are out of the house. I see tough parenting ahead. You may really have to step up and be the bad guy by forcing change to protect Kai. The trip itself I see as positive for Kai to make sure he knows he's special and not doing anything wrong, but the caution. Those kids will hate him more now and will look for ways to make him hurt, mental and maybe more. They will weaponize their peers and family against Kai. Bullies are some of the smartest and most manipulative children I've ever worked with. They know who is where and they capitalize on weakness. Here is where your ex fits in. Enough said, and I'm sorry it's long. Good luck, and I'm glad Kai had something positive to do. My guess is those days with you were really high in the scale. Totally not the arsehole, and piggybacking off this post, a friend currently has a client who is going through the same thing. Ex remarried a horror show with a horror show daughter who tortures the client's kid. They took the ex back to court, and they just rendered a decision that the new wife and her kid have to leave the house for the duration of visitation. That is something you might want to look into. Your ex probably can't afford a legal fight on both ends, so he's likely to cave. And Donnie Ganger says, not the arsehole. And it's not even close. What a nightmare for your kid to have old step-siblings that are bullies. You don't owe them any special treatment, and especially not awesome trips. Even if the step-siblings weren't bullies, there's no good reason to deprive your son of trips just because their own family can't take those same trips. And what do you want to bet the stepkid's dad does the exact same thing? Taking his kids on fun, great adventures that they can rub in OP's kid's face. I bet he doesn't give two thoughts as to what his kid's step-sibling is able to do. Even if he wasn't teaching his kids to terrorize their step-family, and that's why he's an asshole, he has the rights to do this. The stepkids have learned to use anything as a weapon to hurt OP's kid. I bet even if it was somewhere they'd never heard of, as soon as OP's kid went and enjoyed himself, there would be declarations of not fair that he got to go. Our next post is by user Causaz, titled, "Am I the asshole for leaving a family gathering because my family made me sit at the kid table?" For context, I haven't seen my full family together in quite some time, so they set up a get-together at a park today. The family gathering includes me, my brother, my sister, her husband, and their 2 kids, my stepdad, stepmom and her kids, aunt, uncle, my 2 cousins, grandma and grandpa. I get there with some picnic items. I brought a quiche and the cups, and see a few members setting up. I say hi, and I help set up the tables and set the food out. We talk and play games while the others show up. When everyone gets there, we sit down to eat. I sit next to my dad and get a weird look from my aunt as she says to me, "This is the adults' table." To which I reply, "I am an adult?" And she tells me that the first and second generations are considered adult, and the third and fourth generations should sit at the kids' table since we don't have much to contribute to adult conversations. I tell her that I can drink, that I drove here, that I pay rent and have a job, so how am I still considered a child? She says that until I have kids of my own, I'll have to sit at the kids' table. According to my aunt, there are 8 children, ages 6 to 22, and 8 adults, ages 25 to 75, so I should just sit at the kids' table since it'll be even. But there is plenty of space at the adult table, and I don't want to be stuck with 5 literal children. She still disagrees, and at this point my uncle and grandparents back her up, so I say screw it. I take my quiche back, tell them to have a nice day, and drive away. I get a few texts telling me to come back by my dad and grandparents. I ask if aunt is going to apologize, and they ask, for what? That was enough for me to disregard their other messages and calls until I got home, where I am now. I feel crappy that I may have possibly ruined a nice family gathering, but feel my family doesn't respect me at all. Enough to say that I'm still a child, and apparently have the same mentality as 6-year-olds. Edit, this really blew up. Thanks for the awards and all the positive comments. And no, this doesn't mean that these bridges are burned. Family is family, but I'll make my own private table, with blackjack and hookers next time, with VIP access. Last thing I want to say is that you just lost the game. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I feel I may have acted out and ruined the vibe of an otherwise pleasant evening. I could have sat at the children's table and not made a big deal of it, but I felt disrespected and talked down to. OP, what you're describing here is called having a spine, and having a goddamn titanium one at that. That was quick. You were quick smart about that one. Good job. Yeah, look, it does suck to miss out on socializing with your family, and you obviously hold a lot of them in high stead, just not this one auntie that refuses to see you as an adult. And she goddamn knows what she's doing. It's just unfortunate that the rest of the family are so weak that they cater to her because it's easier than fixing the situation and making it right. Now that family, the rest of your family there, are spineless for not stepping up for you. That is sad. Continue doing what you're doing until she does find some respect for you, and until then, she can sit in it and rotate. Not the asshole. Now in the comments, Allsmint250 says, not the asshole. I love that you took your quiche with you too. And OP says, it tastes sweeter for some reason. The thought of sweet quiche is making me dry heave. It's basically a custard cheesecake. At least that's what I'm telling myself. Hauntingly Ethereal says, not the asshole. Quote, don't act dumb, then get mad when people find out. Ew though. Your auntie is totally an asshole. They probably want you at the kids' table to play babysitter. I would have left too, to be honest. And OP replies, I'm surprised my brother accepted it too. He's 21. I understand my cousin's situation though, since she's my aunt's daughter, and it's not like she's gonna talk back. If I stayed, there would have been 3 people over 20 at the kids' table. What? Are you really sure he accepted it, rather than he was too cowed to speak up, so he kept the peace? Cowed. It's like cowardly, you don't hear that word too much. And OP replies, probably. I'm not upset nobody spoke up, just that it was apparently an issue to my aunt. People should be able to sit wherever they want. The division of tables between kids and grown-ups is really dumb in the first place the more I think about it. I think it's just about not being at the kids' table more than anything, which I guess is what prompted me to want to sit at the adult table in the first place. Some families are weird like this. My mum's family never had a kids' table at their gatherings, but my dad's family always did. There weren't many of us kids either. Just me, my brother, and one cousin. I think my brother was about 18 when he finally said he was done with the kids' table and just wouldn't go if we didn't all sit together. I'm 2 years younger, and I think our cousin is about 2 years younger than me. Thankfully, our mum had our back and just started moving the tables together at our next gathering. Some people get hung up on the tradition of it, especially if that's how they grew up. Your aunt's system doesn't even make sense. If it's by generation, then your sister and her husband should be at the kids' table too. If your brother moves to the adults' table, that leaves the 15-year-old with the 9-year-old and 6-year-old kids, which I'm sure they'll hate. Abolish the kids' table. Family time is important for everyone to spend together. Our next post is by user Throwaway ABCDZYXWEFG, titled, Am I the asshole for not leaving with my newborn twins and toddler while my sister had a meeting? So I, 23 female, have a 2-year-old son and 2-month-old twins. I'm a stay-at-home mum, and my sister, 25 female who is in grad school, has been staying with us while her apartment building gets fumigated. She had a meeting with one of her professors to talk about some stuff regarding a project and set up her laptop in the kitchen. It's worth noting that the kitchen is right off the children's play area and bedroom, and she also has a bedroom all to herself that has a desk and the Wi-Fi is decent in. About 5 minutes into our meeting, my 2-year-old, who was playing with his toy trucks, got hurt and started crying. He wasn't even having a tantrum, just crying because he got hurt. After a few minutes, my sister excuses herself from her meeting for a moment and yells at me to take the kids out of the house and that she needs total silence. I told her I wasn't going to take my 3 small children out by myself with no stroller, which was unfortunately left in the car my husband took that morning. She has been telling me all week that I ruined her meeting and I need to get my children under control. My parents agree that I was being unreasonable. What? Am I the asshole? And edit to add, this is my home with my husband and my children. My husband and I were lucky to buy a home before the pandemic whilst I was pregnant with our oldest son. My parents did not and do not fund any part of our lives. They do, however, fund my sister's life. So if she gets in trouble in grad school, it affects them just as much as her. But it is my home. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I think I could be the asshole because I've never been to college, so I'm unsure if my children being noisy in the background could potentially harm her grade. I guess I don't completely understand it either. I don't see how being in grad school and having a meeting with a professor to discuss a project is that big of a deal that she would get this pissed off at you for it in your own home. Is there something I'm missing here? Is it that reasonable that she gets the parents on side and there is this much animosity towards you, OP? The crux of the matter is obviously her being in the kitchen instead of being in her bedroom where she has a desk. I can absolutely understand your productivity being out of whack, having to work in the same room that you also sleep in and relax in. Those two are hard to put together sometimes. But there's absolutely no excuse for her behavior, from my perspective in this situation. She's just being an asshole and she needs to correct her attitude. Not the asshole, and I'd also have a talk with those parents. What is going on there? Now in the comments, Gigi Lily says, if she's unhappy with your children behaving like children in their home, she can stay at a hotel, with your parents, or with other friends, not the asshole. You can't set up shop in a living space and then be upset when the children who live there behave as children. Yup, not the asshole. It's completely unreasonable for the sister to stay over in a house with kids and expect total silence. She has a hell of a nerve for trying to kick OP out of the house for the whole day instead of moving outside, or even to her own bedroom, herself. Yeah, I can't believe she snapped at OP when OP is doing her a favor, letting her stay there while her apartment is being fumigated. She has her own bedroom with Wi-Fi, but she sets things up in the kitchen. Honestly, if it was as serious as she was making it out to be, she's 100% at fault for whatever consequences came out of that meeting for her not putting herself in a private area with little to no distractions, which is something she had readily available and that OP provided. She is acting highly entitled, and by the sounds of it, OP's parents enable it. OP has no financial help from her parents, but her sister does, and they got upset at OP for not catering to her sister kicking OP out of her own home with 2 babies and a toddler. What the hell kind of grandparents would say that? Like, do they know that she had her own room? Financial crap or not regarding OP's sister's academics there is favoritism too, in my opinion. They should be getting mad at OP's sister for her recklessness and entitlement, putting their finances at risk, not at OP's kids for being kids. If they want to enable her, then they can have her. Or a hotel can, and she can get a room, desk, and Wi-Fi like OP was providing, but more expensive since she wants to own the place. And also, OP, I wouldn't want her in your house if she snaps at you so openly like that. Imagine if she yells at your kids or is nasty to them in private over this, or other things later. All in all, she needs to be reminded that 1, this is your home and also your kids. 2, you are doing her a favor, and if she doesn't appreciate it, she can go to a motel, or your parents can let her stay there if they're so keen on getting mad at you and your children over this. And 3, remind your parents of the arrangement, her having Wi-Fi, bedroom with peace, but choosing kitchen next to play area, and that the only person putting her academics and their finances at risk are her, your sister. If they feel your kids are too rowdy or whatever, then they can take her in if your house isn't up to their standards, because your house, you and your husband and your kids are a package. Am I the asshole for kicking my brother out for announcing his wife's pregnancy right after I announced my daughter's diagnosis? Just to make sure I represent both sides of the conflict, my brother and his wife suffered from not having kids for years, and it impacted them greatly. They love the kids in the family, but always wish to have kids on their own. Lately, we got busy with Megan's, 12's, health problems. She started suffering from anemia, loss of appetite, and recurrent fevers. We've taken her to the pediatrician, and from there, we've learned that she has cancer. It was so devastating, I didn't want to tell my family right away. Most of them have chronic conditions, and this type of news might trigger a negative reaction because they love Megan and would give everything to see her healthy. My friends suggested using Facebook, but no. My husband and I decided to gather the family at my house this past Wednesday to announce Megan's diagnosis. My aunt didn't take it well because she holds Megan dear, so she was rightfully the most devastated one. After a few minutes of complete silence, my brother started moving in his seat, saying there's something very serious he wanted to tell everyone. He was hesitant, but then he and his wife stood up, and then he said that he just found out they were finally expecting. The family were conflicted, as some got up to congratulate them, and some remained seated. I remained seated, and my brother then approached me and expressed how sorry he was they had to tell us in these circumstances, but said he couldn't wait since this is a huge deal for them after years of waiting, and because everyone was present. Literally everyone, since I said the announcement we wanted to make concerned Megan. I argued with him about how he thought this was an appropriate time and asked if Megan mattered to him at all, since he didn't take a minute to realize she was just diagnosed with cancer. He started reminding me of how many years he and his wife suffered from frustration and disappointment for not being able to have kids, and argued that because he wasn't able to be a father until now, he's 37, He felt he was missing out on so much for many years, and that I didn't have to finally tell him congratulations, but should at least not guilt him for feeling overwhelmed and excited to finally be a father. He said I knew exactly how much he adores Megan, and I shouldn't even think otherwise. Then said he was just sharing good news after hearing the bad news, and there was nothing wrong with that. I told him and his wife to leave my house right then. He said he won't argue anymore because of how tense I felt, but will expect me to apologize at some point. Some family agreed with me, but my parents thought I shouldn't have taken my anger out on him like that, and that they'll always remember my reaction to the news he gave, and should apologize after I've calmed down. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. Kicking him out after picking an argument with him might have been the wrong move, since I know that he loves Megan, and also how long he waited to finally become a father. So I felt like I ruined his joy by kicking him out. No, OP, don't feel bad about that. You need to have an absolute crystalline spine in a situation like this. He goddamn well knows that was the wrong time and place to be bringing it up. You specifically brought everyone together so you could bring the news that your 12-year-old daughter has cancer. And he's just like, oh, I can't control myself. God, I have to tell everyone the good news. Just overshadow the terrible news that we're about to receive and make this all about me. God, can't you guys all think of me? Like, what an absolute dickhead. If he wants everyone to be together to hear some news, he should arrange it. You can't just piggyback off of this absolutely tragic incident, you buffoon. Not the arsehole OP, he deserves much worse than that. In my professional opinion, of course. Now in the comments, the Kelsey21 says, first of all, I'm so sorry about Megan. You sound like a great dad, and I'm sure she's happy to have you. This one sucks, but not the arsehole. Your brother's troubles suck, but at the end of the day, it was not appropriate for him to take over your announcement like this. It was a time for Megan and everyone to support her, and he took that from her. I get what he was trying to do, but he should have ran it by you first. I do wish her luck with everything, and I hope she gets better. His troubles suck, yes, and I mean as a dad of 2, it took us 6 years to get 2 kids, so I can relate. But you know what's 1,000 times worse of not getting kids? Have your own kid diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. Not the arsehole, they should have waited and maybe personally called family members to give the good news a bit later when things sunk in. It's just so inconsiderate to announce that. There's a time and place for everything. Who the hell hears a child's diagnosis and thinks, oh, this is the perfect time to announce our pregnancy? I hope Megan will be okay, and she's lucky to have such a wonderful mother like OP. People really, really need to learn that if they want all of their family gathered for an announcement, then they need to organize that crap themselves. It isn't that hard to ask your family over for dinner, or throw a barbecue, or have a picnic, or invite everyone over to test your new pizza oven and announce the news. Stop hijacking whatever else is going on in the family. And phones work too. I don't understand this big trend of having a huge party just to announce a pregnancy. Sure, you've waited a while. And then there's the stupid gender reveal and a shower. Just call people and tell them. Raymond Beaumont says, not the arsehole. Oh, your kid has cancer? Too bad, but anyways, I've got some great news, folks. He'll always remember how you reacted to his news. So will you! What the hell? You'll always remember that his response to your news, he said, anyway, in other news. You let him off too easy in my opinion, OP. Right? That day will go down forever. Also, I just can't imagine a way OP's brother could frame it so other people at the very least consider both sides. Why don't you see your sister as much anymore? You'll never get this. She's insane. She lost it at me for revealing that my wife was pregnant. Oh, that's ridiculous. Why would she do that? I don't know. She just started yelling that it wasn't appropriate after she had revealed her daughter's cancer diagnosis. I just can't get over the insanity of this situation, man. And he says, I still remember what I was doing with my hands when my sister told us my brother-in-law had cancer. That was over 20 years ago, and I was 10. I can't imagine hearing that my niece had cancer and the mindset to change the subject. And honestly, if my sibling announced something like this, I'd consider it off limits to announce my pregnancy for a long time. Like, I think at that point, the best option might just be for people to low-key find out one by one as they notice the baby bump. I can't believe this guy refuses to see the gravity of the situation. This is ignorance? Is it ignorance or is it malice? I don't know. But if I were his partner, I would be so ashamed that he went ahead and said that anyway. That is not what you do, ever. I can't deal with this. I'm moving on to the next story. Our next post is by user AckForPrivacy22 titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my mother-in-law I will continue celebrating my daughter's birthday every year despite what happened on this day? My husband, 37, passed away a year ago from a car accident when he was on his way to celebrate our daughter's 5th birthday. It was so sudden and devastating for my daughter especially. I got the news from my pastor, but I didn't interrupt my daughter's birthday, and I waited till the evening to tell my family. Generally, my relationship with my in-laws is good. They supported me throughout the hard period in the past months. Days ago was my husband's anniversary, as well as my daughter's 6th birthday. Days prior, I brought up my daughter's birthday and asked my in-laws if they wanted to join us to plan something together since my daughter needed support. They were shocked that I was even thinking about throwing a party, knowing that this is the same day that my husband passed away. I told them I'd be taking the morning to celebrate his 1st anniversary and then celebrate my daughter's 6th birthday in the evening. My mother-in-law got mad and warned me about having a birthday party, but I cut the conversation right then. We met at the cemetery at noon. Then I got home at 4, just in time to start the birthday celebration. We had some of her supportive friends and parents come and brought handmade gifts for my daughter using pictures of her dad. After the party was over, one of my daughter's friends' mothers posted pictures of it on Facebook, and my sister-in-law saw it by coincidence. My sister-in-law and her mother came over later and blew up at me for throwing my daughter a birthday party at her dad's anniversary despite their disapproval. Mother-in-law said I was teaching my daughter to be callous and with no sympathy instead of taking the day to mourn her father's death properly. I argued with them and said that my daughter deserves to have a birthday celebration just like any other normal kid, and sternly said I'll continue to celebrate her birthday every year despite what happened. Mother-in-law said that it was highly disrespectful of me, and kept saying I messed up and caused the entire family more hurt on this awful day. I told her to leave, and she said she won't forget this massive display of disrespect I showed her and her family on her son's anniversary till the day she dies. This caused others to call me callous and irrational, and although my brother-in-law sided with me and said my daughter shouldn't suffer on top of her trauma, I felt like I might have been disrespectful to my in-laws. You know, I have seen a number of people asking what my husband would have wanted. My husband always felt excited whenever our daughter's birthday came. He experienced the loss of a child from his previous relationship, and it affected him and his personality a lot. He always told me that he was blessed to have our daughter in his life and took every chance he got to spend time with her, even though he used to work long shifts and wasn't able to stay home with us. I have to say, in the couple weeks prior to his death, he stayed with us most of the days and constantly talked about missing us despite being right there with him. He was very emotional in those 2 weeks. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I think that I behaved disrespectfully towards my mother-in-law, and I doubled down by saying I will continue to celebrate my daughter's birthday despite her approval. This is another one of those situations where I don't understand where the other person is coming from. Like, I understand where OP is coming from, but this 5-year-old, now 6-year-old, has lost her father on the same day as her birthday. Do we just not celebrate her birthday on her birthday anymore? That's like the one good thing that you look forward to coming up to that anniversary of your father. At least it like helps with the pain. It's still a fresh wound. And the mother-in-law is like, no, you're disrespecting his death. I bet if you could talk to him in his ghostly, ethereal state, he'd be like, go ahead, I want you guys to celebrate the birthday. She means that much to me. I really doubt he'd feel disrespected for her celebrating her birthday also on the anniversary of his death. But maybe that's down to people processing grief differently, and maybe this mother-in-law still hasn't processed the death of her son. I can't blame her for that, and I don't think she's an asshole for what she's trying to impose. I just disagree with her in this situation. So while I don't think she's an asshole in general, I think this is an asshole response to the daughter wanting to celebrate her birthday. So OP, not the asshole. Now in the comments, Unhappy Coffee 1917 says, "Your daughter suffered terribly, so the best thing to do is take away from her another joy that every other kid gets to have." Wow, logic. Not the asshole. Exactly. And if they did stop celebrating her birthday, the kid would be more likely to grow up with a complex and blame herself and her existence for the death of her father. My dad's mum died on his birthday the year before I was born. He was crushed by it. He never wanted us to even talk about his birthday because it reminded him of his loss. Then when I was around 10 or so, he was hurt by no one acknowledging his birthday. Sometime in the last decade, his grief diminished enough that it no longer overshadowed him being celebrated. All the years of not celebrating haunted his perception of how much his loved ones valued him. Not the asshole. Celebrate her birthday. Your mother-in-law's grief isn't greater than your daughter's worth. This is exactly the truth. Perfectly stated. Our next post is by user Throwaway29LH, titled, "Am I the asshole for throwing away my pad at an acquaintance's house?" Throwaway because I'm sort of embarrassed about this. I met a dude on Tinder a few weeks ago, and we seemed to really hit it off. We had a lot of the same hobbies, and I felt a spark between us that I'm sure he felt too. After we got past the talking phase, we decided to meet at his house for coffee. It was great when I arrived. We talked loads and even held hands. However, I was on the 3rd day of my period, and after a couple hours, I needed to change my pad. I ask for the bathroom and he directs me to it. After I finish changing, I noticed his trash can is pretty full. Not sure what to do, I wrap it in toilet paper and sort of smooth it into the trash so it isn't sitting on the edge. We hang out for about an hour more, and he excuses himself to the bathroom. A few minutes pass by, and he comes out and says he needs to talk to me. He says that I shouldn't have thrown away my pad because he might touch it when taking out the trash, and that it was gross and unsanitary. Apparently he saw that the trash looked different, unwrapped the toilet paper, and saw my used pad. I was mortified. I apologized profusely, and he seemed to take it well. He just told me not to do it again, and if I needed to, just walk a few blocks to a nearby grocery store to change. I left after that, not thinking too much of it. However, I've recounted the events to a few friends, and they think he's a major asshole. I'm not entirely sure. He was really kind about it and didn't seem to get angry, but I'm also starting to see their point too. It's a normal body process for people with a uterus, and I agree, should be more normalized. I'm just not sure what to think, and any judgments would be greatly appreciated. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. Blood can be a little gross when you aren't familiar with it, and it was his house and trash can that I used without his permission. Sorry, but what the hell was he doing unwrapping the toilet paper and looking at the used pad? That made me absolutely cringe up internally. What's he doing investigating the trash? And why does he take it a step further from there and decide to act upon it? I'd mortally cringe on the inside if I were to ever do something as dumb as what he's done there. Then he takes it to that next level by saying, yo, you can't be dumping that in my toilet bin. Yeah, my toilet bins aren't sanitary product disposals. You can't be doing that here. I want you to instead walk a few blocks to the nearby grocery store to change it. That's obviously the more rational and reasonable thing for you to be doing in this instance. And, you would just be upsetting me if you were to continue to dispose of it in my bathrooms, you heathen. This guy is just gross. These actions are not socially acceptable. What's wrong with him? Not the asshole OP. Now in the comments, Noise Proves Nothing says, not the asshole. You didn't put it bloody side up on top. You wrapped it in toilet paper and pushed it into the trash. He had to go out of his way to find out what it was. His rummaging through the trash and unwrapping it made his complaint that he might have touched it taking out the trash utterly ridiculous. His behavior was really weird. Disturbingly weird. Yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to figure out what a small roll of something wrapped in toilet paper in the bathroom bin when you have a girl over is. You don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to deduce that it's a used pad or tampon. Also, stuff someone put in the bathroom bin isn't some great mystery you need to unravel. If someone put something in the bin, it probably belongs in the bin. The hell is wrong with this dude? Also, what is the bathroom trash even for, if not pads and tampons? Toilet paper rolls, floss, and Kleenex? All can be easily walked out to the regular trash without inconvenience. You need a bathroom trash can for, things that should only be done in the bathroom and would require another hand washing if taken to the main trash. This dude clearly got a bathroom trash can because he sees it in most houses, but didn't think about why people use it. If you don't want people to put pads and tampons in your bathroom trash can, don't have a bathroom trash can. Shh, don't give dudes like this the option of no bathroom trash. Delio4NY says, this has to be complete bullcrap. His trash looked different, so he dug through and fished out your used maxi pad, then insisted you walk several blocks next time to a store's bathroom to change it, and you apologized. And OP replies, I'm starting to realize apologizing wasn't the best course of action. I'm still not used to standing up for myself and speaking my mind. If you cannot stand up for yourself and speak your mind, you have no business going to a man's house alone. That's a recipe for trouble. Not to victim blame, but OP, please listen to this. Manipulative people often sense when you don't have boundaries and prey on you specifically. I know from experience. Take the time out to practice enforcing your boundaries and not defaulting to apologizing. Otherwise, you'll find yourself backed into a corner and questioning your own sanity. Abusive people will often start testing the waters early on to figure out what they can get away with. Source, experience. This is so important. OP, you apologized for doing something completely normal and using the trash like a normal human being. He now knows that you don't know how to stand up for yourself and will use that to his advantage. Forget about him. Even if he turns out to just be a wimp who's afraid of women's periods, he's still not worth it. Anyway guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you did like it, tell me what you thought about it down in the comments below, and make sure to just interact with everyone in this community. I love each and every one of you that I get to see on a daily basis. And don't forget, if you are a Patreon subscriber, I love you. You're on the screen right now with the YouTube members as well. If you see yourself, give yourself a pat in the back. You guys help me continue this YouTube journey. You keep me going. I see you guys everywhere. I see your messages, and thank you so much for supporting me. I really love every single one of you. But with that all said, I'm going to be signing off now, guys. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.